Getting your space prepared just like you like it. Letting the house know if it's appropriate that you're doing your thing. Resting your eyes or closing the eyes. Just placing your hands either on your knees or on your lap. Just a few minutes of stillness, taking in the day, taking inventory of what sort of mind you bring to your practice here today. Is it going to be a usual practice? Is it going to be kind of the same mind you carry with you, so it's familiar, the familiar thought tracks? Or are you a little drained? Is this really to your advantage to be a little drained so you don't have anything to think about? You may be the one who is tightly wound, but it's not your usual style. So calming down, bringing things to a sense of stillness. If you are the type that thinks a lot, getting ideas, needing to remember things, you get antsy, I would recommend having a journal nearby or your phone where you can speak into the notes, or something where you can dictate and get it off the mind, get it off the blackboard, get back into stillness, watching the thoughts. So when your thoughts start to be just everything the same, you sort of like, I'm thinking, yes, I know I'm thinking, but I'm not really paying attention to what I'm thinking about. Then let's bring the breath in. Let's bring the companion of the breath right to the forefront, drowning out any of the chatter, the mind chatter, the ruminating. And a nice way to welcome the breath in is to have the sensation or the visualization, not audible, but on your inhale, you have the space as if you're speaking the vowel ah. So you're inhaling an ah sound, sensation, and then exhaling an o sensation. And it would just be through the nose, out the nose, or the mouth, combination. Ah and O. So by creating the vowels in the mouth, it slightly obstructs the flow of, and with that obstruction brings your awareness. You are feeling or sensing or hearing the flow of breath. It's not a vigorous breath flow. It's just slightly audible enough. Probably somebody else wouldn't hear it. Inhaling with a vowel ah in the throat, in the mouth, and then exhaling the O. It's such a simple concentration, focus. It can be extremely relaxing, but you're just awareness of ah and O. And then there comes another ah. followed by an O. Continue to relax through the shoulders. Relax through the shoulders. Again, breathing with intention, breathing with awareness, breathing in the ujjayai fashion. I'd like to add something more on a physical, so we have the breath in the mask or in the throat, and that is an element of physical, but this one is a little more. So for those of you that need a little more to do while you're breathing, because I understand breathing can be just like monotonous, very boring element until it starts to become a welcome friend. Like, gosh, I really don't want to think. I just love thinking about breath. So as your hands are out stretched on your knees with your palms open, we'll imagine our fingers curved, just nice and relaxed in a lotus flower. This will be the inhale. The flower blooms on the inhale. And on your next urge to exhale, begin to close in the fingers at the rate that you're exhaling until the closed buds of your hands, very softly closed, of course, is at the pinnacle of your exhale. And then reversing the flow, reversing the hands and the stretch. And this can be any flower of your choosing. The lotus is the representation, the metaphor of enlightenment, rising up through the muck of life, through the suffering of life, through the swamp water, and then blooming towards the sunlight. As we spend this time anchoring into the breath, it sets the pace, it sets the foundation for this class and for any other elements of your life that you need it. Sitting quietly, focusing on the breath, allowing the thoughts to be like trains at a train station, adding this element of the lotus, perhaps using this at times in your life when you're stressed or you have something you need to be on and focused for. And then if you're on a cushion, we're going to release the cushion because we're going to go forward. Let's actually change the cross of the legs because we've been in this position for quite a while. So either half lotus, full lotus, or Burmese or cross leg, something that you like. And we're going to take it all the way forward. Great time to get the block or a big pillow. Now you want to keep the hips on the ground. So if you don't feel them, press into your hands, anchor in, and then possibly add some more. So purpose is not going to the floor so much as it is connecting in with the spine, with the hips. Now let's return to the O and the Ah. And after a few moments of holding, you'll notice the body is giving in. It's becoming supple, so you can layer by layer give in to the floor.
the ah, and the o. It's simply your companion in your practice. If you notice your shoulder blades have hiked up, just wiggle them down a little bit. They might slightly shrug, and that's okay. I just don't want unnecessary tension in that area, including the area of the jaw and the eyes. And see if you can let go of any control of where your neck, spine, hips, just let it all sink into wherever you are. And begin to rise and come into a seated pose where we will straighten the legs for a moment and reverse so the opposite shin bone is in front, and begin to fold forward once again. And continue your practice of concentration on the breath, being simple and with the ujjayai awareness. So that's ah on the inhale and o on the exhale. It's not audible, just the shape that the mouth and the throat create. Notice where your body's resisting, if it is, in fact. Could be in the hips. If it is it on one side? Is it a little both? Is there resistance in the upper back? Is it more in the low back? How about the neck? Just observe where you can really supple into this now. And complete surrender. No. we'll begin to come out of this forward fold here.
We're going to go into a reverse tabletop. Maybe straighten the legs out for a moment and then place the feet, a little space between them, hands behind you. Now tuck your tail under, so have a little curly tail. And then once you curl your tail, extend through the upper back. Stay here, hugging the elbows in, keep the curly tail, or press into the feet and curl your tail as you continue and then lift. Closing down. Take a moment to reorganize if you want to circle your wrists around. So we do that just again. Now I have my wrists turned inward towards me. You can do them away from you. You can turn them to the sides. I'll do them from the sides this time. Feet are in alignment with your hip bones. So first things first, we curl the tail under, so like a curly tail. And then once from there, extend through the thoracic spine. And I like to keep my neck in alignment. So that's up to you whether you want to drop it back. Stay here, hug the elbows in, shoulder blades pinching back together, and lift tabletop. We're just getting some strength from the wrists and the arms. We'll do that one more time. I like things in threes. So when you're ready, curl under. Keep the scoop, lift and lengthen through the thoracic, and lift. Keep curling as you lower down, so you lower down with a sense of control. And we're going to go through a forward fold. We have the legs folded up quite a bit, so let's go through a forward fold here. And I like my block right either between the shins, where I'm going to place my forehead, and then later I'm going to place the block behind the toes, so you can try it a little lengthen here. So first things first, we draw up and have a nice long tall spine, and then forward hinge from the hip joints. And then once you fold forward, you get nestled in. Let your arms relax away from the body so that the shoulders are away from the ears. So you don't have to reach your arms long and lengthen the spine that way. Think of lengthening the spine from the pubic bone. Pubic bone pushes back or curls up, the tail curls up, and you fold forward and the crown of the head reaches towards your feet rather than your arms or hands. And move that belly button back. And you really fold like a sandwich. And if you feel yourself shrinking, you can just kind of slightly lift your gaze, look at your toes, reorganize that your crown of your head is reaching towards the tops of your feet, and then lower and connect into the belly. Flexing the feet, in other words, pushing through the heels and flattening the feet so that your toes are pointing back toward you is going to increase the space in the back of the leg. If that's too much for you, you can slide some support underneath the back of your knees, or just release the dorsiflexion. Now I know some of you may have your toes out to the sides, so you're externally rotating here. I want you to move and come more to center, so your feet are parallel and the toes are pointing directly up to the ceiling. And again, if you've lost your length, you feel like you've curled a little too much in the spine, maybe you can give a little extra length to it by looking up and then folding it once again.
and the ah, and the o take up the landscape of the mind. Last couple of breaths here. So the only thing to think about is how the breath is going in and how it's going out. So simple, so easy right now. And all of this simplifying and focusing without having to think is going to create space. Let's start to come up and out of the forward fold. So it's going to create space in your mind between the thoughts. When we create space in between the thoughts, you can pick a different reaction or have more of a reflection in between any of your thoughts before reacting. So habits, things like that can be changed, morphed, or just awareness of yourself and how the thoughts come together. So we're going to come into a squat. So if you draw your heels up to your hips and then heels up, heels down, whatever kind of squat is comfortable for you, maybe a squat in a chair or slide a block underneath there. And then just kind of like become a little syrupy. We're going to work into the spine and eventually come into standing and do some spine movements there, but just into the hips here. If you have, say both arms are on the inside here. So that's getting lower and lower. And then if you like, you can flip your palms so that they face up alongside your body. And at any time you need to take a stand to come out of it, reorganize, and come back into your squat. This works lovely in a chair and just as effective as if you were on the floor. And now we're going to bring the squat up, elbows to the inside, and lengthen rather than flexing the thoracic. We're going to extend. So flexion was what we were just doing. We were folding forward, and extension right here. Now, some yogis, you'll want to bend forward and lift your hips first, but some yogis, you might be able to go right up to standing. So that's where we're going to go in a moment here. Let's just give a little bit extra. All right, so you're going to squeeze your hips down, press into your feet, and push your hands together and come up into standing. Okay, so coming to the end edge of your mat, and feet are underneath your hip bones, so they're not directly touching each other. We want to have some good base foundation, and we're going to build into a standing. Build from the feet up and then go into movement. So just let your arms relax alongside your body and bringing your attention to your feet. There's a triangle. We're gonna pick the triangle. Sometimes it's the rectangle. I do like to have rectangle, but let's imagine there's a point underneath the joint of your big toe on each foot, and then draw a line to the joint underneath your little toe. And now connect those 2 points to a point at your heel. So it creates a triangle. Big toe, little toe, heel. And now I want you to activate your arches of your feet. So activate the ankles and see or witness and become aware of how that activates through the shins to the knees, and how that can start to spread into the upper thighs, the inner thighs, and even into the buttocks and the pelvic floor area. So just by the feet, we activate all the way up. So we don't have lazy arches. They're not mushing in. They're resisting, but in a nice buoyant way. And then it starts to cascade through the rest of the legs
and everything starts to pull in and up and supporting the spine. And so the arms are going to be nice and relaxed. We're going to go through a flexion of the upper spine and the cervical spine. So the cervical and thoracic flexion. That means we're only going to go down a little bit. So chin into chest. So you're looking at your feet. Hello, feet, ankles, and arches are activated. And we're just flexing the rib cage area, the upper thoracic spine right here. And let your head go. And feel that you're pushing the shoulder blades, or you feel that the shoulder blades are peeling apart. The arms are drawing the scapula bones through gravity, and then that middle part of the upper thoracic is pushing up to the ceiling. And let's come back up to standing. So we come up into extension of cervical and upper thoracic. Let's do that again. So we go into flexion of the cervical, flexion of the thoracic, upper thoracic. And draw your navel back, draw your arches up so we're still activated. And coming back up into standing pose. So nice and supple and subtle awareness and movements here. All right, so we're going to go chin, feeling that cervical curving or flexing. Now we're flexing into the rib cage and shoulders. And now we're going to go in like small circles around. So you're going to the side, so a little side into the ribs, and we go back to center. Just the thoracic part of the spine is ragdolling. I like to call it the ragdoll. Everything else is stabilized. The hip bones are pointing forward, stabilized. The knees, we've got activated arches and ankles, toes pointing forward. And we're just taking like a little half circle. And the arms, most importantly, just hanging out, doing a ride along with the spine. Now we're going to bring the body back to center and slowly round back to standing, where we will take it to the next level. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, flexing at the cervical spine. And now we go all the way through the thoracic, and now we're lumbar. And we're going to stay right here, bending the knees as you need to. We're going to bend the hips all the way to the heels, looking up. Exhale, pressing into your feet. Bend your knees as you need to, and slowly round up. Nice and slow. We're feeling the variation of the spine that's coming with you as we come into extension. And again, inhale, exhale, flexion through the spine. As your hands make contact with the earth, we're going to bend. Inhale, extend the spine. Exhale, and flexion becomes extension, one bone at a time. Let's do that one more time. Just nice and syrupy, slow, aware, deliberate. Breathe as you need to. Curl your tail under. Then we're going to drop the tail, looking up, extend, and then we're going to round all the way to standing. Let's take a little more from the neck before we go down back into the areas of the spine. So bringing your hands either holding opposite elbow. You can do some prayer hands up. I like prayer hands down. So I'm going to do my little prayer hands pointing down and go chin to chest, and we're going to go all the way around the circle here. Now, some of you may want to shrug your shoulders when the head drops back, which is fine to help support the cervical spine from going too extended. So once you do about 5 or 6 turns, reverse the direction. Nice and easy and aware. Head comes back to center. We're going to release the arms here and go all the way back to the earth. One vertebra rotating down or flexing down. Once your hands make its way to the floor, walk your hands out as far as you need to so that your hands and your feet and your heels are grounded. So maybe not quite a down dog, maybe it is a down dog for you. And if you want to bend your knees as much as you need to get to this, you don't have to have straight legs, but do let your head dangle. So nod a little yes and no. Again, this can be a down dog if you like. And play with those levels as the legs open up in the back. And we're going to start curling under, coming to your knees, curling under your tail. So curly tail, knees down, hands under the shoulders. And we're just going to extend the thoracic, extend the cervical spine. So that's the shoulder area of the spine and the neck. And we're going to flex and extend just the lumbar and the hips. So the pelvic area. Everything else about the spine is in neutral extension. So it's kind of like a half cat cow, just a lower half cat and a lower half cow. Let's see if I can get it even just in the pelvis without being anywhere in the thoracic. So the shoulders are neutral here. All right, let's add now the head. So the top of your head is curling under, cervical spine curls under to touch the pubic bone or the curling under. Just holding here for a moment. Feel those hip bones pushing forward a little more and then extension into neutral. So I know it's not quite cow. We're really taking this slow here in the spine. Top of the head is curling under, the curly tail and the hot head meeting, and then extending the spine back to neutral. One more time. Flexion, lower spine, middle spine, upper spine, and cervical. And then everything extends. Let's do that again, and now we're going to ripple through it. So it first starts with the hips curling under your tail, then into the thoracic, and then the upper thoracic and the head. And we reverse out of it the way we began. First it's the tail and the hips and the lumbar, and then the low back, middle back, upper back, and the cervical spine is the last thing to come into neutral. And again, it's neutral, not cow. So it's a subtlety. So here we go. It's tail, and then rippling through the spine, the head and the neck are the last thing to curl under. Keep that upper thoracic and cervical curl, and we extend the spine starting with the hips, the lumbar. Now here's the thoracic extension, followed by the cervical extension. Let's do that again. Here we go. Lumbar, thoracic, upper thoracic, cervical. Keeping it all flexed. Here we go with the extension. Let's do one more time. I feel one more time. It's going to feel really good. So here we go, starting from the tail, curling up, and it unfurls from the tail. And we extend. So let's sit on the tops of the feet and let those wrists get a moment of relaxation or some move through. So roll through the joint there. Some weight bearing going on here. So that's not a bad remedy for the bones in the arms. We need to be weight bearing to build bone or maintain bone density. So stay sitting on the tops of the feet here just a little while longer. We're going to take a little moment in Thunderbolt pose. So this next, we're going into tabletop, back into tabletop where we were. We're going to flex through the spine again. This time the body will come forward. So here we are in a neutral spine. We're going to round or have a curly tail under, and then take your curly tail as you move your body forward. Center of gravity shifts to the center of the mat, and just extend over the wrists, and then extend the upper body. Then we're going to curl under, keep curling under the tail, and come back to neutral. All right, so let's do that again. The tail curls under, and then as you move forward, the thoracic starts to extend, but keep your curly tail. Move your hands as you need to, now curling back. So we move out of the extension into more the flexion. Back to where we were, neutral spine. Let's do that one more time. Curl under your tail. I'll even move my hands forward. So you're going into somewhat of an up dog or a seal pose, but you want to keep curling your tail under. We don't want to just collapse into the spine here. And then once you're staying as a curled spine, we're going to extend through the thoracic. Now curl under, flex, and let's take it all the way back, flexing under the spine, and we'll sit into child's pose. Resting in your favorite child's pose, open up those knees. And so before you get on a train of thought, let's return to the breath, the ah and the o. Enjoy 2 more breaths in a relaxed child's pose. We're going to revisit child in a moment. I just want to go back through where we were. So before you come out of your child, I want you to curl your tail under and start to come out of it in a curled form. And then once you come into neutral tabletop, extend everything. And now we'll go into the cow. So the cow, we're going to drop into the shoulders. Notice how the sternum has a collapsing or a dropping forward, and extend the neck up, arching the back. Reverse. Curl everything under and push into your hands, curly tail all the way until your heels almost touch, and we come back into neutral spine. And from neutral spine, the neck, the shoulders come together in the back. We've dropped the sternum, looking up, And the little tail is up and reverse.
Curl your tail and push it back, push it back, push it back. Really extend and find more length in that lumbar area of your spine. One more time back into neutral. All right, so from neutral, sternum, cervical, and reverse. Curly tail moves to the heels. Keep lengthening out in that lumbar area. And we're going to settle into another child's pose. And this time I encourage you to find another child, maybe opening the knees a little wider. If you had your arms forward, I like to encourage you to have your arms to your side. Or if you had your arms to your side, you're going to thread your arms through your legs and reach for your ankles. So you'll be going even deeper, and likely your head will be turning to one side. And immediately coming into your ujjayai practice. And keeping in mind, this is the separation, this is the wedge, the gentle, loving buffer between your thoughts. Buffer adds time to reflect. Is this a thought that serves me? Is this a thought I want to continue thinking? Is this an original thought that comes from my true self-reliance? Or is it something I'd like to change or discard or up my game? All these things then become possible as you create space between the thoughts, practicing the stillness and simple awareness of breath. All of this is available now. We never stop thought, we just slow it down, create space. All right, so let us come on to the back now. We're going to come off the knees. Woohoo! And if you need a little support for your neck, you can have that, but not too high. We don't want to have so much support that the neck doesn't have its natural curve. So the heels are collected in close to the buttocks. And arms alongside your body. And remember those arches of the feet. We kind of had them a little activated. We're going to activate the arches of the feet here too. And it's just a way of connecting in and supporting the body. So relaxation is great. And then through the relaxation, we're aware of the support. Hands relax, shoulders melting. And as you push into the arches of your feet or lift up, or the ankles getting activated, feel how the inner thighs and the hamstrings likely got activated. And I want you to use that activation, continue, and press the sacrum into the mat, the flat part of the spine, and it lengthen out through the lumbar even more. And we're going to gradually start to flatten out, continue flattening out above the lumbar, along the sides of the body, the floating ribs pressing down, all just because of the activation of the arches and the ankles. It's like it ripples up through the spine. And we're going to take the arms up in the air, so palms facing one another, and keep that activation of imprinting is another good word. We're imprinting the spine. We're flattening the spine. As you flatten that spine, continue. You're going to reach up and then put the shoulders back down. So we disengage from the mat and then re-engage. So lifting shoulders up, or rather the scapula bones extending out to the sides and reaching. So you're reaching for something and then placing the shoulders back. So as you do that, notice you may have lost some of your connection and flattening into the mat. So reconnect with that. As the arms reach, you're still keeping a portion of your awareness into the spine. And then last time, we're going to take the reach, imprint the shoulders, keep the spine, and we're going to take the arms all the way up and overhead and feel a nice long spine as you do that. And we're going to take the right knee into the body, holding the back of the thigh. Let's take that right leg up to the sky. And then straightening out the left leg here as well. So at this time, if you like to have a strap, you can. It's not necessary to have a strap. We're going to start to guide the leg from side to side. And I'll tell you what, we're just going to go from neutral. So this is going to be our neutral, which is center, holding the back of the thigh. Take that over the midline. So right leg goes over to the midline and then back center and stay with just that. We're not going out to the side just yet. Let's go across the midline. And just notice that your spine and your hips are still imprinting or flattening. Now for those of you who want a little more clarity of where your spine is, you want to take it a little more, again, awareness. Place your hands by your sides. Just over crossing the midline until you feel you might disengage. Let's go the opposite way now. And we're going to add a little resistance. So hold that leg. We don't want to go to the floor just because this is more in the hips and the spine more than the inner thigh. Back to center. And again, out to the side. But once your hips and your spine lose contact, game over. Okay, so again, this is more for the spine, awareness of imprinting rather than the range of motion and flexibility for the leg, just for this. Got a little Pilates yin yoga. Let's switch now. Let's hug that knee in. Just take a good pressing in on the organs. You can circle that ankle. That feels good. And we'll switch to the other leg, first taking it up to the ceiling and holding the back of the thigh. Notice how the hips pressing in equally all the way through the spine and the shoulders. And then there's an option to take that right leg straight. Notice how that might have changed. So make any adjustments so that you can feel both hips and the spine. So you can keep holding the back of that leg or take your arms by your sides. And we're going to go to cross the midline and then come back to center. Remember, if you start to roll up, any part of that underneath starts to come off the mat, game over, you've gone too far. So less is more. Just want to feel a nice stretch. And this is where if you have a strap, this can help with not having to use so much of your arms. And this one more time, we're going to go back center and then over crossing the midline. So we're going to go center and now out to the side. And remember, we're not going all the way. So you want to hold and then come back center. Take your awareness in the hips and into the low spine and into your back and the side ribs, those floating ribs. Are they staying in place? Are they flattening and fattening, taking up all this space on the mat? So connection, connection, connection. And then hugging that knee in. Let's hug it in tight. Circle the ankle. Let's take both knees in now. Nice. Massage and rocking. Take your hands behind your head. You can also use a block for this if you like. And we're just going to flex the upper spine to meet those legs. And if you have your elbows, you can squeeze. You can also hug in the legs. I find hugging the head gets a good neck. So we're going to take the upper spine down and go into spinal twists. So nice and easy, both knees over to one side of your mat. Ujjayai breath, drowning out any commentary. Feel that diagonal stretch from the hip to the shoulder. I'm going to add a little twisted root. So I've got both knees over to the right, so that left knee is going to cross over the right. Okay, so it's a little bit too much, add the block. It's a way of recognizing a deeper twist availability. Complete surrender here, last 5 breaths. And begin to unravel the knees and coming back into center. We're going to regather up the knees here. And then placing both knees on the opposite side. And then option to cross the right knee over the left here. And give complete surrender these final 5 breaths. Unwinding the knees. And bringing it all back to center. Just one more curling in, massaging, working out any kinks. I'd like to end with the bound angle or the Baddha Konasana, Ardha Baddha Konasana. So it is reclined here. But straight legs or even one leg at a time, adding blocks under the knees. And then placing your hands somewhere on your person, somewhere maybe the heart and at the belly center, your sacral area, or maybe even down by the pubic bones, feeling the sense of grounding if you're wanting that energy of grounding. Allow your hands to feel warm on your body. You can rub your hands together to create more friction to start it out. And then once you get it revved up in that way, place the hands and radiate your hand healing on this body as we finish here in a Shavasana, continuing with ujjayai breath to create space between the trains of thought.
And just in these last final breaths, picture and visualize yourself ahead of the night, ahead of the evening, applying the essence of self-compassion and gratitude. If you still have your meal to eat, that you'll eat with mindfulness and again, appreciation and gratitude for the story the food tells, where it came from. And then putting yourself to sleep, putting yourself down in a very easy way, letting yourself off the hook for any extra chores that you might have lined up for yourself. We're going to take it easy on this evening, bringing the knees back in through center and either rock and rolling up to seated pose or roll to your side and gently bring yourself up into a loving seating pose. And we'll all meet face to face if you would like to unearth your camera and bring your mute button off. We'll chant an om, that vibratory creation from the vocal cords that goes through the body and soothes out. Oh, so bringing your hand and letting your breath. Have a lovely evening. Namaste.